The music was perfect. A string quartet playing a soft melody that drifted on the cool afternoon breeze. The air smelled of gardenias and freshly cut grass. All the little details Eva had spent months planning seemed to have come together for a perfect California wedding. My own heart, however, felt like a rusted-out engine, barely sputtering. A low, hollow hum. My palms were sweating as I clutched the small, black velvet box in my hand. My one last attempt at a peace offering. I had been told not to come. In an email, just a week ago, "Dad," she wrote, "I love you, but you are not welcome at my wedding." Just like that. The words were a knife twisting in a wound I didn't even know I had. A simple, three-word message that said everything, "Do not enter." It was written in thick, black letters on a crudely taped sign. Below it was my face, a large, 8x10 glossy print of a photo Eva took of me a couple of years ago. Smiling. The irony felt like a punch to the gut. The photo was a happy memory, but the sign stripped all the joy from it, all the life. My chest tightened. I could feel the blood rush to my cheeks. A hot, prickly sensation that made my ears burn. I must have been a sight to behold. A father, dressed in his finest suit, standing outside his only daughter's wedding. His own picture publicly posted to keep him out. I don't remember the exact moment the world shifted. It had been happening slowly. A landslide in slow motion. But I was too blind to see it. It all started a few months ago. On a Saturday evening, I was on the sofa, scrolling through old photos of Eva and me on my phone. Photos from when she was little, after her mother passed away. It had just been us. A team. I taught her how to ride a bike. She helped me learn to use the remote for the television. We were all we had. We were a family. Then the phone rang. A video call from Eva. She was beaming. Her face lit up, a shy smile on her lips. "Dad, I want you to meet someone," she said, her voice giddy. She then tilted the phone screen to reveal a man sitting next to her. A man with a smile so perfect it looked like it had been surgically pasted onto his face. He was in his late 30s. Handsome, with sharp blue eyes and a jawline that could slice glass. He wore a crisp, tailored suit and exuded an almost alarming air of confidence. This was Harold Kensington, a self-proclaimed tech investor. He talked about himself a lot. His ventures, his successes, his grand plans for the future. He spoke with a polished ease. And yet, there was something in his eyes. They didn't smile when his mouth did. They darted away when I tried to look him in the eye. A flicker of something. A coldness that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. My daughter's excitement was a powerful thing. Though, she was so happy. I tried to push my unease aside. Maybe it was just me. A father's overprotective instinct. My suspicions, however, were not without merit. A week later, Harold called me. "Silas," he said, his voice as smooth as polished stone. "Could we meet up for coffee? I have a small business matter to discuss." We met at an upscale coffee shop, the kind with minimalist decor and $12 lattes. He got straight to the point. "Look, I'm being frank with you. Silas, I've got a small problem. Some of my investments are temporarily frozen. You know how it is. The market can be unpredictable. I'm just a little short on liquid capital for the wedding expenses." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Eva and I have a dream wedding planned. Everything is booked and paid for. Except, I need about $70,000 to bridge the gap. I'll pay you back. I just need a little help from my future father-in-law. Consider it a loan." I felt my stomach churn. This was a man with a tailored suit and a confident smile, asking me, a simple IT manager, for $70,000. I knew the red flags were everywhere, waving in the wind like little banners of caution. But then I looked at his face and saw his plea. It wasn't about him. It was about Eva. It was about her dreams. The man knew how to play on my fatherly instincts. "Eva doesn't need to know," he added. "I'll handle everything. It will be our little secret." That sealed it for me, not because I trusted him, but because I wanted to protect her, so I agreed. The next day, I wrote him a check for $70,000, signed it, and handed it to him, watching him pocket it with that same smug, practiced smile. It felt like I was handing over a piece of my soul. I did it for her, for my little girl's happiness. I told myself it was worth it. But the unease gnawed at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly, fundamentally wrong. So, I took a week off from work. I told my friends I was going on a trip, and then I flew to San Francisco. The City Herald claimed he was a big shot in. I didn't tell a soul. I rented a car, found a quiet coffee shop, and started digging. It took hours, days. Even, I sifted through public records, cours documents, and old news articles. The truth, when it finally surfaced, was more horrifying than I could have imagined. Harold Kensington was a fraud. A con artist, he targeted successful, single women on dating apps, created a fake life for himself, then disappeared with their money. The court documents I found were from a lawsuit a woman filed against him. The news articles detailed how he had swindled hundreds of thousands of dollars from other victims, all using the same story about his investments. And then I saw the photo. A picture of Harold with another woman. A woman who looked heartbroken and betrayed. On her ring finger, she wore a diamond engagement ring, the same one Eva wore. A sick, twisted knot formed in my stomach. The ring was not unique. The lie was not unique. My daughter was just the next victim. I closed my laptop and felt my hands trembling. I had to tell her. I called Eva. I tried to be calm, to reason with her. I sent her all the links, all the court documents, all the evidence I had compiled. But she didn't listen. She accused me of being jealous, of trying to ruin her happiness. She said I was a bitter old man who couldn't stand to see her happy. Her voice was cold, distant. It wasn't my Eva anymore. "I'm sorry, Dad," she said, her voice hollow, but I choose to believe him. "He loves me." She said that I was not allowed to come to the wedding. My heart broke all over again. Even after that, a part of me, a foolish, hopeful part of me, still held on. I went to the jewelry store. I bought her a beautiful diamond necklace, something I had always wanted to give her. It was expensive, but money didn't matter. Not for her. My only hope was that she would see me. She would see my face, and she would remember. She would see that my love for her was real, and that I was not a bitter man, but a father who loved her more than life itself. I got in my car and drove all the way to the wedding venue. The valet helped me out of the car. The music was still playing, but I couldn't hear it anymore. All I could see was my face, blown up on a piece of poster board, with those 3 cruel words written below it: "Do not enter." The whispers began as I stood there. rooted to the spot. I could feel the eyes on me. The pity. The confusion. The judgment. Harold. I saw him now, standing at the end of the aisle. He looked at me, a smirk on his face, his eyes gleaming with a cold, triumphant light. He wasn't just doing this to keep me out. He was doing this to humiliate me, to show everyone that he had won. He had stolen my daughter's love, and now he was stealing my dignity. I felt a fire ignite inside me, not the fire of anger, but the cold, hard flame of a new kind of purpose. I wasn't just here to talk to my daughter anymore. This wasn't just about a broken family. It was about something more. It was about justice. It was about a man who thought he was untouchable. I turned on my heel, leaving the velvet box in my car. I walked past the valet, past the whispering guests, past my own smiling face with its ugly sign. I walked to my car, and I knew what I had to do. The quiet of the car was a welcome relief from the cacophony of violins and hushed whispers. I sat there for a moment, the keys heavy in my palm, the velvet box, a forgotten weight on the passenger seat. The heat in my face had not yet faded, but it was no longer a sign of humiliation. It was a furnace, a cold, silent rage that was now burning away the last vestiges of my hope. Harold's smirk flashed in my mind's eye, and a new kind of purpose solidified in my core. I pulled out my phone. My first thought, my only thought, was to stop the $70,000. I went to my banking app, my fingers moving quickly, almost instinctually. I needed to call them to put a stop order on the check, but the app was a dead end. It was Sunday. The banks were closed. Frustration, hot and sharp, clawed at my throat. I couldn't just wait. He could be cashing it right now. At some ATM, some obscure bank that opened on weekends. The thought made my blood pressure spike. I put the car in reverse, the tires crunching on the gravel, and left the wedding venue behind for good. I would be back at the bank the moment it opened on Monday morning, no matter what. I had barely been home an hour, still in my suit, when I heard the frantic pounding on my front door. It wasn't a knock. It was an assault, a single, furious rhythm that rattled the glass in the windows. I knew who it was. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. It was Harold. His perfect smile replaced by a contorted mask of fury. His face was blotchy, his eyes wild. He was sweating. He pounded on the door again, screaming my name. "Silas, open the damn door. I know what you did." I unlocked the door and opened it. My face, a mask of calm, a stark contrast to his unhinged rage. He stormed inside without an invitation. A bull in a china shop. He pointed a trembling finger at me. You did this. You poisoned my fiancée against me. She's been a nightmare all day," he roared, his voice cracking. "She found the email you sent her, the one with all your fake evidence. She's threatening to cancel the honeymoon. Do you know what you've done?" He was so consumed by his own fury, by the self-righteousness of a man whose lie had been challenged, that he didn't even see it. He hadn't seen the humiliation at the wedding. He was so sure of his control, so certain of his victory, that he couldn't imagine me being there. His anger was all about the money, the potential loss of his next great score. I didn't do anything. "Harold," I said, my voice low and steady. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't blink. I simply sent my daughter the truth. I provided her with the facts. What she chooses to do with them is her business. He took a step closer, his eyes narrowing. "You're a sick old man. You're jealous because I can give Eva the life you never could. You're an embarrassment. You have no right." I cut him off, my voice still calm, but with an edge of steel. "Eva is not a possession. Harold, she is not a prize to be won, and she's certainly not your fiancée. She is my daughter, and she is not your property." His jaw went slack. The words landed like a blow. He opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. The smug, practiced facade was completely gone, replaced by pure, naked panic. He spun on his heel and stormed out, slamming the door behind him so hard the frame rattled. I stood there for a long moment, listening to his tires squeal as he sped away. The quiet returned, but this time, it was different. It felt like a promise. The next morning, the first thing I did was go to my bank. The teller looked at me with confusion when I told her I wanted to cancel a check I had written. I insisted. I showed her the account, the date, the amount. She made a phone call, then gave me a strange look. "Sir, the check for $70,000 has already been canceled. The recipient attempted to cash it late last night, but the account was flagged." My mind flashed back to the moment I'd turned on my heel at the wedding. I hadn't gone straight home. I had gone to the nearest branch, even though it was closed. I'd found a manager's number online and called it Suhamarender Ziri Eddy. I had told them everything, every detail, the fraud, the money, the public humiliation. The man on the phone, a father himself, had listened patiently. And then he'd said, "Don't worry, Silas. I'll make sure that check never clears." The man had followed through. My first step was a success, and I felt a wave of relief so profound it nearly buckled my knees. Back at home, I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed an expert. I called the one person I knew who would be both skeptical and utterly reliable, my old college buddy, Michael. Michael had retired from the police force a few years ago and now ran his own private investigation business. I told him the whole story, from the video call to the sign at the wedding. He was quiet on the other end of the line, just the sound of his breathing and the faint rustle of paper. "So, what do you want me to do, Silas?" he finally asked, his voice flat. "You want me to confirm he's a dirtbag? Because from what you've told me, he's a grade A dirtbag." "I need more than that, Mike," I said. "I need proof. Concrete. Undeniable proof. The kind of proof Eva can't ignore. I need to know everything. The other women, the lawsuits. I need to build a case that's so airtight it leaves no room for doubt." A long pause followed. "All right, Silas," he said, and I could hear the shift in his tone. The flat professionalism was gone, replaced by the familiar loyalty of an old friend. "Send me everything you have. I'll get started." I spent the rest of the day in front of my computer, sifting through the evidence I had already found. I put together a folder with screenshots of the news articles, the court documents, and the forums where women shared their stories. Michael sent me a secure link, and I uploaded everything. As he worked, I kept digging, following every lead I could find. Then I saw it. It was a picture on one of the victim's social media pages, a blurry photo from a year ago. It was a selfie of her and Harold on a beach. She was smiling, holding up her hand, showing off her engagement ring. The ring looked familiar. I zoomed in, my heart pounding in my ears. The design of the band, the setting of the stone, it was identical to the one Eva wore. A sickening wave of nausea washed over me. The ring was a prop. It was a part of his performance. He wasn't a man of character. He was a monster. A man who used a single, beautiful symbol of love to exploit the dreams of dozens of women. Just as I was about to call Michael with the news, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. The caller ID read, "Charlotte, my late wife's mother." He hesitated. Charlotte had never approved of me. She thought I was too soft, too trusting, and she'd never forgiven me for not being able to save her daughter from the cancer that took her. After her death, she had slowly soured on me. Seeing my love and care for Eva as a constant reminder of my failure, "Silas," she said, her voice sharp and cold. There was no greeting. "I just got a call from a very upset Harold. He says you're trying to ruin his marriage. You did this, didn't you? You ruined Eva's wedding. I told you. You're just a bitter old man who can't stand to see his daughter happy. You're a failure. Silas. You always have been." I felt the familiar hot flush in my cheeks. The same one I'd felt at the wedding. The words were a bitter medicine I'd swallowed for years. Ali. A lie, she told herself to justify her own hurt. But today, the medicine didn't go down. It felt like gravel in my throat. My hands, still holding the phone, felt cold. But the fire inside me was burning hotter than ever before. This wasn't just about Harold. It was about all of it. The years of quiet resentment, the judgment. It was about proving them all wrong. After the call, I sat at my desk for a long time, the laptop screen still displaying the terrible photo. I was done with hoping for peace. I was done with trying to make everyone happy. The time for defense was over. It was time for a full-scale offensive. I pulled out a fresh legal pad and a pen, and I began to write. I outlined every step of my plan, every contingency. Step 1, cut him off financially. Check. Step 2, expose his lies to Eva. I knew the emails weren't enough. Step 3, expose him to the world. It was a risky game. It could backfire. Eva could hate me forever. But I couldn't let him get away with it. I couldn't let my daughter be another one of his victims. I had to fight for her, even if she had pushed me away. When I was done, I had a detailed, multi-step blueprint for his total and complete public downfall. I pulled out the printer. I printed every document, every article, every single piece of evidence I had. I put it all into a crisp manila folder. I then found a small, unmarked box in my closet. I carefully placed the folder inside, along with a handwritten letter to Eva. It was short, but it was from my heart. No accusations. No pleas. Just the truth. I sealed the box, wrote Eva's name on it in my neatest script, and looked at it. My choice had been made. There was no going back. I looked at the sealed box on my desk. My name scrawled on it in my neatest handwriting. Inside was the truth I had painstakingly uncovered. A lifeline for my daughter, if she would only take it. The box was just a small piece of a much larger plan. A blueprint I had meticulously sketched out on a legal pad. The time for hoping she would listen was over. The time for action had begun. I felt a cold calm settle over me. It was no longer about pain or anger. It was about execution. The next morning, I logged into an anonymous email account I had created years ago for junk mail, a place where ads for new shoes and online furniture sales went to die. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was the first shot fired. The moment of no return. The digital world was my new battleground. I found a screenshot I had saved of a news article about a woman who had successfully sued Harold a few years ago. The headline was damning, detailing a complex fraud scheme, a web of lies and betrayal. The article didn't just mention him, it detailed his methods, his targets, and his utter lack of remorse. I attached the image and wrote a short, cold message to his personal email. The words were a knife's edge. Sharp and to the point. I think you've done this enough. Harold, it ends now. I hit send without a moment of hesitation. It was a warning shot, a way to let him know I was watching, and that I was serious. I could almost feel the phantom flinch on the other side of the country. The moment he saw the email, and his carefully constructed world began to wobble. After that, I went online and found a local courier service. A quiet, professional-looking business that promised discretion and timely delivery. I scheduled a pickup for the box with Eva's name on it. I gave them her address, but I didn't tell them what was inside. I felt a familiar pang of fear, a ghost of my fatherly instinct. What if he intercepts it? What if she just throws it away? But the thought was fleeting. This had to be done. It was my only hope. I watched from the window as the small delivery truck pulled away from my house. A nondescript vehicle carrying the full weight of my revenge. An hour later, my phone vibrated. It was a text from Michael. He's losing it. My source at his office says he's on the phone with his lawyers. Screaming. I felt a low hum of satisfaction. The shot had landed. I knew Harold would be frantic, trying to figure out who I was and how I knew. He would be searching for a leak in his own inner circle, a traitor among his investments. But what he didn't know was that I had already sent the package to Eva. He would be too busy trying to find me to even consider that Eva already had the key to his entire empire in her hands. A few hours passed. I spent the time meticulously sorting through all the evidence, creating a digital dossier. That night, I logged into a throwaway Reddit account, an anonymous persona I would only use for this purpose. I found a subreddit dedicated to identifying and exposing scammers. The title was something like R. Scams. The community was a tight-knit group of people who had been wronged, a place where they could share their stories and get justice. I wrote a detailed post, laying out the entire story, my name, my daughter's name, the wedding, and the sign. I described Harold, his perfect smile, his smooth words. Then, I included the links to the court documents and the news articles. I even attached the screenshot of the woman with the identical engagement ring. I hit post, and a wave of calm washed over me. I had just put his entire scam on public display. The responses came in almost immediately. This guy is a monster. I can't believe he'd do that to his fiancée. A few people said they recognized his face. I think he tried to message me on that dating app a few months ago. He said he was a tech investor. The post gained traction, and within a few hours, it had gone viral on the subreddit. My inbox was flooded with private messages from other women, all with a similar story. It was an army of broken hearts and empty bank accounts. A chorus of voices I knew would be a powerful weapon. Among the messages was a surprising one. It was from a woman named Chloe. I think Harold tried to scam me too. She wrote, I'm a freelance journalist. I've been following his trail for months. I think you've just provided the final piece of the puzzle. Would you be willing to give me a statement? I think this could be a major news story. My heart pounded. A journalist. This was more than I could have hoped for. This wasn't just about me and Eva anymore. It was about justice for all his victims. I called her, and we spoke for hours. I gave her every detail, every link, every document. I sent her everything I had. From the bank statement showing my $70,000 to the court documents from his other victims, I told her about the velvet box I had brought to the wedding. I told her about the photo of the other woman wearing the identical ring. This is exactly the kind of thing my readers need to see. She said, "This is a story about a man who preys on women who are simply looking for love." The next few days were a blur. I was in constant contact with Chloe. She was doing her own digging, following up on my leads, finding more victims, and getting more stories. She was a pit bull, relentless and focused. Harold, meanwhile, was on a full-scale meltdown. Michael's texts were a running commentary on his unraveling. He's been trying to get your Reddit post taken down. He's telling everyone at his office, "You're a crazy old man." I knew what Harold was doing. He was trying to control the narrative, to discredit me. He was still playing his same old game. But this time, he was losing. Then, my phone rang. It was Eva. I took a deep breath. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for. The conversation that would change everything. "Dad," her voice was a thin, shaky whisper. So unlike the confident, vibrant daughter I knew. "I got the box," she said, her voice thick with unshed tears. "And I read your letter. I don't understand." "Dad, what is all this?" Harold says, "You're lying." He says, "You're making it all up because you're jealous." He's been calling me all day, begging me not to believe a word you say. He says you're trying to ruin our marriage. I could hear the internal conflict in her voice. The part of her that wanted to believe her father, and the part that was so deeply invested in Harold's lie. "Eva," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "Harold has been a con artist for years. Look at the documents. Read the articles. It's not just me. There are other women. Other families he's done this to. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this to protect you." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. The only sound was her shallow, ragged breathing. She didn't answer. She just hung up the phone. I stood there, phone in hand. For a long time, the conversation hadn't been what I hoped for, but it hadn't been a complete failure either. I had planted the seed of doubt. Now all I could do was wait for it to grow. That afternoon, Michael texted me again. He just had a full-on meltdown at the office. Started screaming at his lawyers. Said he was being framed. One of the new guys on his team is talking to reporters. It's only a matter of time. I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. My plan was working. Harold was so focused on trying to stop the Reddit thread. He wasn't paying attention to the real threat. Chloe, the freelance journalist, was closing in. I sent her a final email with some last-minute details. That evening, I got a text from Chloe. "Silas, I have everything I need. I'm publishing the article in 2 hours. You and your family will get justice. Thank you for trusting me." My heart hammered against my ribs. A wild drumbeat of anticipation and fear. This was it. The culmination of weeks of fear, pain, and meticulous planning. The moment of truth. I sat down at my desk. My laptop screen, a cold, blank canvas. I opened my email and drafted a message. This was my final move. My ultimate checkmate. I pulled up the guest list for the wedding. The one Eva had accidentally left open on her laptop when I'd visited her apartment months ago. It was a long list of names and email addresses. I attached the link to Chloe's article. A story that exposed Harold for exactly who he was. A fraude. A liar. I read the email over one last time. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of 1,000 hammers. For all of you who attended my daughter's wedding, you deserve to know the truth about the man you were celebrating. He is a fraud. My daughter is just the latest in a long line of victims. The proof is here. I hit send. My revenge was complete. The world would see him for who he was. And my daughter, she would finally know the truth. I hit send. The email went out to every guest on the wedding list. My finger lifted from the mouse, and I felt my hand trembling. The digital deed was done. There was no going back now. My revenge was complete. The world would see him for who he was. And my daughter? She would finally know the truth. I stood up and walked to the window. It was dark outside, and my reflection was a shadowy figure in the glass. I was no longer the father who had been humiliated at his daughter's wedding. I was the father who had fought for her, and I was ready for whatever came next. The rest of that evening was a blur of frenzied activity. My phone began to vibrate in my hand. A constant, panicked rhythm. It was a barrage of texts and calls. Most were from numbers I didn't recognize. The messages were a mix of shock and confirmation. I saw the article. "I'm so sorry. Silas. I knew that guy was too good to be true. Thank you. You saved my daughter." The world was waking up to Harold's fraud, and I was at the center of the storm. A few minutes later, the phone buzzed again. This time it was Michael. I answered. "Silas," he said, his voice a low, steady rumble. "It's all over the news. Chloe's article went live about 10 minutes ago. It's on every major news outlet in the city. He's on a full-scale meltdown." I didn't say anything. I just listened. The news reports were playing on the television in the background. A low, constant hum of voices I couldn't make out. I could feel the chaos from here. The sheer panic of a man whose lies were finally catching up with him. He's been trying to call her all day. He's been texting her, calling her, begging her to forgive him. He's at the courthouse right now, trying to file a restraining order against you. He's completely unhinged. This is your moment. Silas, you've won. You've won it all. I hung up the phone. I didn't feel a surge of triumph or a sense of vindication. I felt empty. The fire that had been burning inside me for weeks, the cold, hard flame of revenge, had suddenly gone out. I walked to the kitchen and got a glass of water. I stood by the sink, looking out the window at the city lights. I could still see the glare of the wedding hall, a tiny speck of light in the distance. The memories of that day, of the sign, of his smug smile, all of it came flooding back. I had won. But what had I really won? I had my dignity back. I had my honor. But my daughter was still out there, broken, betrayed, and alone. The thought of her, huddled somewhere, crying, made my heart ache. My revenge had been a success, but it had come at a terrible price. I had to wait. There was nothing more I could do. I went to bed that night, but I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing, replaying every moment of the past few months. I felt a sense of dread, a fear that I had pushed her away forever. The next morning, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there she was, Eva. She looked different. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were red and puffy, and her face was blotchy. She was wearing the same dress she had worn at the wedding reception, but it was crumpled and stained. She was crying, her shoulders shaking with every sob. "Dad," she said, her voice a whisper. "I'm so sorry." I didn't say anything. I just wrapped my arms around her. She clung to me, burying her face in my shoulder, sobbing uncontrollably. We stood there for a long time, just holding each other. The smell of her perfume, the sound of her crying, all of it was a balm for my aching heart. When she finally pulled away, she looked at me with her tear-filled eyes. "I read your letter," she said. "I read all of it. I'm so sorry. I was so stupid. I was so in love with the idea of him. And he knew it. He knew exactly what to say, what to do. He made me believe that you were the problem, that you were jealous, that you couldn't stand to see me happy. He was so good at it. He was a master manipulator." I just nodded. I knew. "I'm so sorry." "Dad," she said again, "I'm so sorry for everything. For the sign, for the email, for not believing you. I don't know what I'm going to do. My life is ruined." I put my hand on her shoulder. "No, honey," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "Your life isn't ruined. It's just beginning. You've learned a very painful lesson, but you've also learned something else. You've learned that you're strong, that you can stand up for yourself, and that you have a father who will always be there for you, no matter what." I walked to my car and came back with the small velvet box. I handed it to her. The box felt heavy in my hand, a silent weight. She opened it, and a tear slid down her cheek. The diamond necklace glittered in the afternoon sun. It was beautiful. She took it out and put it on. She looked at me, a soft, sad smile on her face. "Thank you, Dad," she said. "Thank you for everything. I love you." I looked at her, and I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in months. The revenge was over. The justice had been served. But the real victory wasn't Harold's downfall. The real victory was in this moment, in the gentle, quiet act of a father and his daughter, finally finding their way back to each other. I had fought for her, and she had finally seen the truth. My story wasn't about a father's brutal revenge. It was about a father's brutal love. I sat down on the sofa, and a single thought came to mind. My wife would have been so proud. I smiled. I looked at the old photo of her on my desk, her face beaming with that same beautiful smile that I fell in love with all those years ago. It was all worth it. I had my daughter back. The next day, I got a call from Harold's lawyer. They were offering to pay me back the $70,000. I told them to give it to the other victims. They had suffered enough. My revenge was complete. The world had seen him for who he was, and my daughter had seen me for who I was, and that was all that mattered. This story, however, doesn't end with a happily ever after. It ends with a new beginning, a beginning filled with hope and a new understanding of what it means to be a family. A beginning where a father and his daughter, broken but not defeated, are ready to face the world together.